Hello, everyone. This is round 4 of the Pan American Intercollegiate Chess Championship. I'm Nathan, representing Shippensburg University here in Pennsylvania. I'm back home in Pennsylvania. It got too busy during the days to record, and I was getting kind of tired and missing things, and there was too much chaos happening, so I could not record immediately. But I'm here to retell the glory, the story of Pan Am's of 2025 Pan Am's in the under 1800 section. As I say in previous videos, I am the board 2, and yeah, so we're coming into round 4. Shippensburg is 2.5 out of 3, and we are playing, I think, on board 2 or table 2. Pairing number 2 for the under 1800 section. So we're very much one of the favorites to place within the top 4. Top 4 gets plaques, and the pressure's on. The pressure is on. So with that being said, let's hop into the game. I do no engine recaps because I want to try to explain my thought process and explain what someone around my strength thinks about. It says I'm 1925 USCF, around 2200 rapid on chess.com, although I don't play that much. And yeah, so hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. And then at the end, I'm going to press the game review button, and we can look at what the engine really thinks. How accurate or inaccurate is my actual thinking. Anyways, so round 4, we are playing Georgia Tech. I have the black pieces. And my opponent plays the e4. So I go for a Caro-Kann, and he plays d3, which I forget if this is called the Briar, or if it has a different name. I haven't looked at this very much. The only experience I have with this, well, firstly, they're like taking on e4 is the main move, and this is all the experience I have with it is taking on e4, and like playing knight f6. And actually, this opening, I had a speed chess match for the PA Collegiate Speed Chess Championship. It's coming up again this year in spring of 2025. So stay tuned if you're a college student in Pennsylvania. Stay tuned for the PA Collegiate Speed Chess Championship. But I had a match against a national master, Mitch Fishbein, and he played this in our speed chess match and completely destroyed me with this variation, which may seem a little bit surprising, because it's just a variation where you trade queens immediately, which it's kind of unassuming. It doesn't look that ambitious for white, but if you have the black pieces here, and if you don't know the correct way to develop your pieces, you could get into a lot of trouble very fast. The only thing I know about it is that going knight f6. Well, firstly, bishop g4 looks good. You're pinning the knight to the king. It's a natural move. You usually want to play this move in the Caro, although it's not good here. I have no idea why. I assume it was because you're going to give up the bishop pair for no reason, or maybe king e2 and king e3. I'm not sure why this is slightly better for white, but I remember very vividly 2 years ago, like a 2100 rated player said he loves playing this variation with white, and how most Caro players mess up by playing bishop g4, and white is already slightly better. That's so I know not to do that. So it's very tricky, because you usually, all I know is that you're not supposed to develop pieces to like normal, and it's a weird setup for both white and black. That's kind of all I know about it. But going back to the starting moves here, d takes e4 is the main move. I think one of my student mates, teammates on Team B for Shippensburg, he said he usually pushes. I did not consider this move, and it may look natural to some people, but because you are blocking this bishop, I assume white just counterattacks with c3 and breaks apart black center, and white is totally fine. So I didn't really consider this move. I knew d takes e4 was the main move, and we reach this queenless middle game. Knight f d2, um, which, as you can see, already white is putting pieces on weird squares. Like white gave up their castling rights, put their knight back to from f3 to d2. Like, if you didn't know this was a real opening, like, you might be like, what are, like, guess the elo might be an interesting, like what is the elo of the people playing this? Like, it you might not guess class A players or above, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is like main theory stuff. And the last thing I know about this opening is that g6 and bishop h6 is a big idea. And that's it. That's all I know. In a rapid game, like an over-the-board rapid game, game in 15, delay 5 game, I had a national master play bishop d3 against me. I actually got a very good position in that game. I ended up losing despite being up a rook. But I had 2 seconds on the clock. So anyways, but I know but g3, the g6 is one of the normal moves after this knight goes back to d2. And now I'm going to develop to h6. f3 supporting the e4 pawn. And I play bishop h6. Now whenever the knight moves, I can take here. And I think the main thing, like, playing this against Mitch, the other national master that's played against me, like, well, firstly, I have negative memories of this opening because I've lost to it like 8 million times in a row. So I have negative emotions associated with this opening because I've gotten crushed so many times. It just feels like if black doesn't play it right, it feels like white just has more space and black can't make moves. And I was very afraid of that, and I wanted to make sure I did the right maneuvers. So so I came up with this idea to, after a4, like, for example, I was scared of bishop e6, even though I don't think it's horrible, but I was afraid of, like, long term, like, how well is this bishop actually placed? If I wanted to develop the bishop, like, the bishop on d7 will block the knight from developing. Bishop cannot go anywhere here, and if I just try to develop like this, it's kind of in the way of the e pawn, which I might want to move to e5 at some point, and it could get hit with a knight on d4 or f5, and like, if the bishop is on the square and a knight takes it, I would have to double my e-pawns to take it back. So I was afraid to develop, like, that's an example of how, like, maybe developing pieces could be, like, if you develop the wrong way, it could lead to something bad, or it could lead to a bad position or a hard position to play later on in the middle game. So I come with this idea of b6. Now if a5, like, let's say they continue their advancements. Also, a4 in the first place is an interesting move. Not committing c3, and I assume, and later in the game he does go knight a4, actually almost immediately, I think. But yeah, it's interesting because, let's say, like, knight d7, already white could go a5 if they wanted to and really restrict black's queen side, and black will never be able to go b5 because of pawn takes. And now there's split pawns, and this is probably not what black wants. So although it's not like a5 wins the game for white or anything, but it feels like this queen side, like, it could be a weakness, like this super advanced pawn could be a weakness, but it feels like it's more likely a strength in this position. So I actually played b6. So now with a5, I actually have I have the option of b5, which I assume is pretty good here because now a knight can never go to c4, or a bishop can never go to c4, and he claims space on the queen side, but so do I. So it feels like this is. It's not bad if he puts. So I feel like if a5 now, it's better than this a5 where I cannot play b4. So that's one reason b6 is, I think, okay. Another reason why is I actually want to put the bishop on a6, that's what I end up doing, because I'm not sure if I really want my bishop anywhere on this diagonal. So I actually come up with this idea of trading it off. You often want to trade off your light square bishop in the Caricon anyways, so I thought it felt natural and it seemed like an okay move. And after he develops his knight, so like both people putting their pieces on the edge of the board is kind of funny. And if you actually look at this, like I literally played g6, bishop h6, and b6 and bishop a6. Like that's actually kind of silly. And oh, like those four moves in a vacuum was just kind of very silly for me to think about. And I was kind of chuckling at myself a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think this is a good way to continue my development, and I feel like white isn't posing me that many problems. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is that e5 attacking the knight might feel nice because you're winning a tempo, but actually because of this pawn on e4 restricts this knight's movements. So if you push it, the knight can hop in and actually start like the knight coming here seems really strong. You might even lose the bishop pair, lose a bishop for the knight, which white maybe does not want that. And you always have to be a little bit careful as white to not overextend. You probably want to prioritize developing here and not pushing the pawn. Anyways, I just want to mention that. All right, back to the game. So I played bishop e6. Oh, bishop a6, I should say. I played bishop a6. And he doesn't take me. I actually wondered if it was better to take me. I assume he didn't want to help my development because now I can castle immediately. And I'm one tempo ahead, and I can reroute this knight either to c5 or c7, where it'll support the d5 square or go to e6. So I assume he didn't feel like helping me develop, so he wanted me to take first. So he wanted to play c3 and allow me to take first. And now I cannot castle immediately because the knight's still here. So I have to spend a tempo developing my knight. And he moves this knight towards the center, the knight that's on the edge of the board towards the center. And I have to be a little bit careful here. This movement in itself is very natural. And this knight could rotate this way. It's like a very flexible move. Like, actually, that's what's really cool about this position is that it's very fresh. I actually got the feeling that I was playing a, whatchamacallit. It kind of felt like Fisher Random, I'm not going to lie. Which just because, like, I didn't know anything about this opening, and it's like all the pieces are going on weird squares. It felt like in the moment, at least. So actually, it felt kind of refreshing, to be honest. Although, because of how tense it was, like in this position, I was already very, very scared. Actually, I wonder how much time. I have the invitation sheet right here. I think after move 12, he had about 76 minutes. And I had about 62 minutes, and it's a game in 90 plus 30-second increment per move. So we already spent a lot of time here, and it's very, very tense, especially since it's a team event and we're trying to win first place. I really, really wanted to do well here, and on board 1, they agreed to an early draw, and on board 2, and then board 3. They have an opposite colored bishop ending. And then on board 4, they have a horrible position. Our board 4 for Shippensburg has a horrible position. So I'm feeling like, oh man, I might have to win this game. This looks bad. I'm not sure what to do. So you really feel the pressure, and like, I really didn't want to lose for my team. So even though this position may seem boring to some people, I'm not sure if it does, but to me it's very, very interesting. And anyways, I'm rambling. I ended up castling here, and it felt natural. I think it's hard to know where the king belongs, but it feels like the king belongs on c7 maybe, or like I don't think it's a bad thing that the king's on the queen side. I don't think it's obvious for the king to be on the king side at all. So castling felt pretty natural. And after b4, it seems like they're going to go knight b3, and king c2, and we're probably going to trade off the bishops. So we're going to like a knights and rooks endgame. That's what it feels like is going to happen. I'm not really afraid of any pawn pushes. Like, for example, if he ever goes b5, that actually leaves the c5 square open for my knight. So wherever he pawn advance, he leaves weak squares behind. So I wasn't really concerned with this side of the board with these pawns. And so I felt relatively comfortable here. I do end up going king c7, and he goes king c2. So king c7 is preparing the move e5, because I do have to figure out how to continue developing here. And that was actually a really, it's actually really important to think about that. Like, how are you going to continue the position, like 3-4 moves down the line? Because I've played against this opening before, and I just suddenly on move 20 of the middle game, I'm just like, I'm stuck. Like, I have no move, I have no way to improve my pieces, and then my opponents just keep improving the position, and I get crushed. I get positionally crushed. So I want to be very careful here. For example, here, if I go e5 immediately, I can't, because knight check, and uh-oh, you get forked. Hello. And so I decided to play king c7 to just guard the d6 square, prepare the e5 push, and try to rotate one of my knights to e6. I'm pretty sure it's been a few days since the game happened, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of my main thought process behind this move. And let's see, move 13. Yeah, king c7. And he plays king c2, and I actually play e5. I actually spend 10 minutes on this move just because I was a little bit afraid to commit my pawn here. With my pawns, honestly, like, all my pawns have barely advanced. So that actually means my pawns are quite flexible, actually. And I was thinking about a lot of things here. Like, I think one of the things I was thinking about was like knight h5 and playing for f5, but I was like, I didn't really see. I was afraid to make things go crazy and cause huge imbalances. I kind of wanted to wait and see what his plan was to continue to progress the game. I'm also not sure if black is better poised to start creating these differences in pawn structure and stuff. Like, I contemplate like e5 and f5 much later, or f5 later in the game, but I never thought it was that good. Anyways, so I do play e5. One thing I don't like about it is that how my d7 knight is stuck guarding the pawn, so I can never move this knight, or else this pawn will hang. So but I come up with this idea of rerouting my knight to h5, to g7, to e6, and pushing pawn to f6. And I thought my position was really solid, and I didn't have that much to worry about. So that's what I did. So he centralized his rook, which makes a lot of sense. I move my knight. He could allow me to go to f4. I don't think I have that many threats. He does go up g6 in the game, though. So, like, for example, I don't even know how you continue in this game. Like, maybe knight b3, and after we trade like this, let's say pawn moves. Like, I can never hop in too far with my knight, or else my knight is actually trapped. Like, actually, like, so I don't actually think knight f4 was ever a threat at all. Like, because you can always kick it out, and it feels like a waste of a move. And, like, what am I going to go? Like, h3? I'm not sure. Although, maybe this is all right. So, I think, yeah, I think he just wanted to play g3 just to prevent any possibility of things happening. But I do not think knight f4 was something that you needed to prevent. But maybe it's just a move that slightly improves your position and prevents any possible ideas. You don't even have to calculate it. Like, he played g3 pretty quickly. So from that standpoint, g3 makes a lot of sense. You can even call it a prophylactic move if you want to be fancy and all that jazz. But he plays g3, and I improve my position slightly. His slight improvement for him, slight improvement for me. Now this knight on d7 is no longer tied down to the defense of the e-pawn. Not that I have anywhere better to put the knight, but hey, maybe I want to put this knight on e6. Whoops. Maybe I want to put this knight on e6 like that. But I was pretty sure at this point that this knight would probably go on e6. Anyways, he plays this fancy move, knight d6, and I actually played rook hf8 pretty quickly. And in hindsight, I kind of wish I thought about it more. I might have come to the same conclusion to not take the knight, but if I look at the timestamps here that I wrote on the papers, he played knight d6. Let's see, knight d6 with 38. He's actually spent like almost 20 minutes. No, he spent like 16 minutes on knight d6, and I spent a minute on rook fd8. And he had 54 minutes. I had a slight time advantage actually. He had 38 minutes. I had 40 minutes after this move. I did wish I thought about it more because I was actually analyzing this position a little bit without an engine with some other people from Shippensburg, and they actually said, like, is it really that bad? Because after king takes, let's say knight c4 check, or knight b3, let's say knight c4 check, and bishop takes, I forgot what we looked at, but we actually thought that it wasn't that bad for black. Looking at it now, why did I do this? Why did I not think this was that bad? This actually, I don't know what my knights are doing. Both my knights look bad. You know what? I'm happy I did not think about this move more. Both my knights look bad. I think I think my in-game thoughts were correct here. I have no idea why I thought this might be okay. Okay, I gotta look at it one more time. Wait, so something like knight c4, bishop takes. Oh, whoops! I hit the mic. Yeah, I don't even know what moves to make here. I can't move this knight back. I could try to get this knight. No, this doesn't look that pleasant. No, this doesn't look too pleasant. Although I can't do that move. Yeah, no, this isn't good. Maybe it's not that bad, though. Maybe it's not that bad. But I don't think it's that good either. This looks kind of uncomfortable. I don't know what moves to make. Anyways, I did not do that. I did not take the knight because I didn't know what moves to make after the bishop trades. So I just decided to defend because if it is threatening a fork. So I just defend against it. And he plays knight 2c4. Knight 2 c4. Yeah, not instead of knight 6 d4. Knight 6 c4. And now our bishops are touching each other, or no, I mean have vision on each other, and we trade, and I finish my knight rotation from f6 to h5 to g7 to e6 finally, and he doubles his rooks, and I play h5. I'm not sure if I need to include this move, but honestly, I'm running out of improving moves. I finished my knight rotation. I cannot double my rooks. And I don't really have anywhere good for this knight to go. Like, for example, like I honestly considered after h5, he played h4. I considered knight b8, knight d4, knight d7, knight b8, knight d7, knight b8, knight d7, because I just thought like, okay, well, there's about nothing really happening in this position. But it felt really wrong to just give him infinite time to improve his position. But I just thought my position. Look how the pawn structure. The pawns are symmetrical. I mean, talk about symmetrical. Look at this beautiful circle. Like, how often do circles happen and pawn circles happen like this in games? I don't feel like it has happened to me that often. This might be my first rated game with the pawn circle, which that's an achievement of itself, honestly. So, I considered like just like not touching anything here, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Like I can't like it gives them infinite time to do stuff, to prepare pawn breaks, all that stuff. I also considered moves like for example in this position like f5. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. It just feels like I'm not ready to I don't have any hard calculation to back my evaluation up, but like it just does not feel like I'm the one that's in a position to ask questions here. Like this e pawn feels more like a weakness. Um, and if I ever push it, I could have an isolated e pawn, and I don't think I'm ever really threatening to get him with the rook. And like if I ever move, for example, if I ever move this rook off this file, hello, knight sacrifice, and this comes with check, and this looks bad news bears. Although maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Maybe he would more likely sacrifice this way. And if I do this, maybe something like this. Yeah, maybe this is good for him. Although he doesn't have this interference tactic. Oh, I do have this interference tactic. I didn't calculate this during the game. So I was too afraid to move my rook off the file because of discoveries, and he gets his rook on my 7th rank, and I was really afraid of that. So I was like, I'm not gonna move this rook. My rook is tied down to this knight. This knight has nowhere to move. This knight is on a good square, defending a lot of key squares. It's ready to hop in towards the center of the board if he moves any pawns out of the way. So I felt like this knight was very well placed, this knight on e6, but this knight has nowhere to go. This rook can't move. This rook is defending the f7 square. Like, for example, if I move this rook, he can attack this rook, and hello, you lose the game. So it felt like my pieces were tied down, and if I look on the board, if I look on the boards next to me, I think the board 3, he's up 2 pawns, but it's opposite colored bishops, so it looks like most likely a draw. And then on board 4, it looks very much like a draw. So I'm like, okay, so that means if I lose, the team loses. If I draw, the team draws. If I win, the team wins. I'm getting lower and lower and lower on time. And probably after a6, h5, and then a6, around this position, I have 20 minutes, and he plays king b2, and he has 21 minutes. So I ended up going with a6 just because I think I can go a6, b5, and lock this structure, and our pawn structures are completely symmetrical. I do not think he has enough play, or he has enough, like, he has no pawn play, and I think his pieces are as active as they can possibly be. And I felt like I didn't have any problems. Like if I opened up the A file, this file, if I open up the A file, if he ever moves a rook towards there, well, now he's not threatening to move his knight and then take this knight if there's only one rook on the file. So if he moves his rook to the A file, then I can move my rook to the A file. So I felt like if I just make the pawns, if I lock all the pawns and make everything symmetrical, there's nothing he can really do. Anyways, so I play A6. He plays king b2. I think that's just a waiting move, just to wait and see what I do. And sure enough, I push the pawn again, locking all the pawns. If he moves his knight, for example, I have the option of taking if I want to, and I'm up a pawn, at least temporarily. I don't know if I want to take immediately or not. I thought this was an interesting option. Not very practical, because why would white have to calculate, like, why are they sacrificing a pawn? like why, especially when they can take, like in the game. So look at this, look at these beautiful symmetrical pawns on both sides of the board. It's awesome. And then do the same thing, so he didn't need to sacrifice a pawn at all. And now I knew his knight could go to a5, but now after he put it down on a5, I was like, wait, how good is a knight to g7 really? And well, I played knight b6, and I think he was saying in the game he played knight d b7. So this knight to b7. I mean, he said after the game that he thinks knight a b7 is winning. I'm not sure. I thought I was actually okay in both scenarios, and I was more afraid of the move he played in the game. Like this knight to b7, I actually don't see the threat. I don't see the threats. I think I'm fine. Maybe after something like rook d7, he wants to argue that the rook here is bad, maybe. But I don't know. Oh wait, the knight hangs. Oh, okay. But no, he can't do that because the knight. I always pick back the pawn. Pick back the pawn? Pick the pawn back up. But maybe. No, I'm fine here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine here. Um so I don't know. I don't know why he thought it was winning. This move was winning knight A b7, but he plays knight D b7 and I'm in the tank. I'm in the tank. After knight b6, I had 13 minutes. After knight c4 check, I had 6 minutes. And after he took, I originally wanted to either go takes and king takes, um, or go king takes immediately. But I forgot why I didn't like it. Oh yeah, king takes immediately I think is a bit bad because of check and what, knight here. Yeah, although I don't have to bring my king to c7, but point is there's no way to defend this pawn. Maybe it's still okay though. Maybe after I can go f5. Although no, this is not fine. This is not fine. That is not fine. So I was afraid of this, like knight coming in and knight coming here. This looks really, really bad. I mean, my knight on d8 is so bad at guarding my pawns. You know, it's out of nowhere somehow. So I was afraid of that. So I cannot. So I originally intended to take the b7 knight, but the more I calculated, the more I didn't like it. And even if I trade once, for example, and take it, now he could do the move. I think it's this check. And if I attack the rook, he jumps in with the knight, defending his rook. My king's on the back rank, and I'm like, oh man, time is ticking. Time is ticking. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Like, do I really want this position? Do I really want this position? This position looks like butt, like pee pee poo poo butt. Not good. Not good. This position is not good. I do not like this position. I do not like this position. So, yeah. So I don't play it. So after knight c4 and knight takes, I do play rook. I trade one pair of rooks, and I take this knight. And now both his rook and his knight is hanging, and the only way to not lose material is to go rook here, counter-attacking my knight. So after I take his knight, he takes mine, and so I felt this position with only rooks. So we traded off the pair of knights, we traded off one pair of rooks. So I felt good about my drawing chances. And of course I played rook takes d3 with 0 minutes on the clock. So I was playing on the increment. So every move up to this point, I'm just playing on the increment now. So I moved my rook on the 7th. I made it with 3 seconds on the clock. I thought it made sense to prevent any checks. I don't think it matters if I do it or not. I think I can do rook d8. No, I cannot, because he just takes the pawn immediately. So I thought this was a good waiting move to prevent the checks and see where his rook goes. He goes rook e8, and now I go rook d7. And now if he attacks my pawn from behind like this, I go rook d6. And if he ever attacks this pawn, I counterattack his pawn. And I thought this position was always just fine for black. It should be a draw. I wasn't worried about it. And like, you do have to be careful in these rook endgames of like when both rooks are Pac-Man, like waka 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 waka. There's but you have to be careful. Like, okay, is one rook gonna eat more pawns than the other rook? And then it's like, okay, now it's just hard calculation. You know, he's got to calculate, like, make sure, you know. But I play enough rook endgames that, like, I intuitively this feels fine for why. I mean, the pawns are are pretty symmetrical, and both rooks are active. Neither king is blocking the other rook out. Like, it's so this position felt totally fine. Anyways, rook e8. I move my rook. He attacks the pawn again. I repeat. He moves his king. I move my king. So he doesn't want to draw. He's playing on. He could repeat moves, and I would have repeated, but he brings his king closer and plays like this. And after this move, I have 33 seconds on the clock. My time is ticking. I get down to 20, and he reaches over the board and says, "Adjust." And it's my turn. I have under 20 seconds, or about 20 seconds, and it's ticking down, down, down. And I meant to say, "Please only adjust on your turn," but it came out as, "Only adjust on your turn. Don't adjust on my turn." And then I make my king move. King b6. I didn't mean to be so snappy, but yeah, don't adjust on my turn, especially when I'm under time pressure, dude. Like, I actually almost freaked out because it actually happened a second time. But the second time was more reasonable because he made his move, hit the clock, and immediately adjusted instead of waiting 15 seconds and then adjusting. But dude, that actually, like, the second time I also told him the same thing, like, "Don't adjust on my turn." But I did not mean to yell. Anyways, so I did go king b6, and now he decides to keep the game going. Like I said, if he wants to repeat moves, if he wants to go king f8, king f7, king f8, king back, king f7, I'm probably gonna repeat. I'm not really in a position, like, I'm not attacking his pawns yet, so I'm not really in a position to continue forward since my rook is tied down to this pawn. But he does end up attacking the g pawn, and so I have to counterattack, and we do that. We trade like this, and he thinks for a while, with whatever 2-3 minutes that he has left, and he does play g4. I guess he's just trying to make chances. I don't think it really matters what you do, like, because you could also just go for this. Like, this is also fine. Like, I think everything is a draw at this point, but it's just really, really tense. We're the only ones for our team still playing. There were draws on all 3 other boards. It's just me and him. Our team's on the line. First place is on the line. Everything's on the line. And so it's tense. It's tense, even though this is a very simple, like, objectively speaking, this is a relatively simple rook endgame. Like, but my heart's pounding at like 100 million miles per second. I don't want to lose for my team. So he pushes his pawn. I go rook here. And I'm touching everything. I got my fingers dipped in the sauce, deep. So I'm not afraid of anything here. Not afraid of anything. That's a lie. I am afraid. I don't want to lose, but I felt very, very good about this move because it really does simplify the position. Like, after takes, I take this pawn, and I take this pawn, and it's heading closer and closer to a draw. That's what it feels like. So he attacks my pawn, and here I thought I played a good move, which is checking the king, forcing the king back, and then pushing my pawn. But he does actually end up winning this pawn very easily because I have no way to defend it. And the position is looking like something like this. But what if I didn't check him? Like, it felt like the best move because it's kind of beautiful, actually, how the pawn and the rook work together to force the king backwards. For anyone not familiar with with a pattern like this, with a rook and either a king or a pawn or another piece forcing the king back, it's actually very, very useful. And so it feels like I'm winning a tempo by forcing the king further back. But I actually don't think it was that useful of a tempo. Like, for example, after rook f5, if I just push immediately and he attacks my pawn, like, how is he's not winning my pawn, actually. And actually the king still has to go to the back rank to guard the pawn, to stop the pawn from going further. Although in this case, he still has an h-pawn, so it's still probably just a draw. But that's one thing I was thinking about after the game, was like, wait, what if I just didn't do the check? Because now my rook on h4 is actually well placed. But I guess at any point, he can just, like, even here, he can just push his pawn, and then, and then if I go here, he goes here. and we kind of reach a very similar position to as the game. So it probably doesn't really matter at all. But I do end up throwing in the check. If it likes me, yes. It's here and here. Yeah, I throw in the check on h2, and play proceeds like this. We trade off the pawns, and it's still very tense because I'm playing on the increments. He has like a minute left, but he's also sort of playing on the increment, and there's no real way to make progress here because white has to blockade the pawn. So we just shuffle a bit, and we shuffle, and I write down king b5, and I say I claim a thief roll repetition. It's actually might not be a thief roll repetition. I just assumed it was, because let's see, rook. When's the first time it was on? Actually, let me check in live time. Is it a thief roll repetition? So this is the last pawn that was captured. Okay. So this is once, twice. So I claimed the thief roll repetition when it was a two-fold repetition. But he accepted. Because actually, when you claim a thief roll repetition, you're also offering a draw. And, I mean, it's pretty clear to him that it's a draw anyways. There's no real way to continue. Like, if you ever do something like this, of course this is not winning. You're only going to lose. There's only possibilities to lose as white. And if you go, I don't even know what else to do. If you go rook a4 and you win this pawn, you're trying to win this pawn, for example, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you're actually losing the game. Yeah, this is really bad. So this is just losing. Like, so there's no way to continue is what I'm trying to say. So with this draw, we drew on all 4 boards against Georgia Tech, and we were 3 out of 4. 3 points out of 4 in terms of match score for Pan Ams, and we were still in the lead. I think there were only a couple of teams that may have had 3.5 at that point, but we weren't too scared, and yeah, we're still in contention for first place. So just to recap the game in total, it was a very interesting queenless middle game, and weird maneuvers like bishop h6 and bishop a6. So funny, to me at least. I think I'm just easily entertained, to be honest. So very interesting development with the bishops, and but other than that, it's pretty normal game. In hindsight, it looks pretty normal, but during the game, I was extremely stressed. And I end up trying to lock up the pawns to be completely symmetrical because I didn't want to lose. So I end up, like, I'd be interested to see about if there was ever an opportunity, like in this position, to go f5. I do not think so. I don't think I'm really poised to go for these f5 or like f5 pawn breaks. Like, he doesn't even have to take, but if he did, like, does this really benefit me? Like, I said no during the game, but maybe I'm wrong. I honestly don't know. But I thought just having locking the pawns like so, I thought it couldn't be bad. And if anyone's better, it has to be white. So I felt like I had to be careful. And I don't think knight a b7 was winning like he said, but maybe it's somehow a better chance. I'm not really sure. But other than that, the game, from an objective point of view, just petered out into a draw after we traded into the rook endgame. And from there, it was pretty simple. We just simplified the pawns. And that was the game. Whew. Man, this tournament was stressful, man. Anyways, I will see you guys later with round 5. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.